Hey, hi, hello, welcome back, Alexandrian Codex. Talking about the Guiyi Circuit Restored mod I've worked on today. The Guiyi Circuit is present in the game, in vanilla, as a duchy. Spanning from here, down here, having some holdings in here as well. Ultimately, isn't in the best place for expansion, which is interesting because the Guiyi Circuit, in reality, controlled everything that you're seeing it control now. Now, they weren't kings exactly, as they were part of the Tang Dynasty and were more like military generals or secretaries that controlled this vast swath of land, but because that political nuance isn't really in CK3, we're stuck with a king. And what's interesting is, as I went in to add these dukes of Jaiwei, Duchy, Pod, and Luo, want to say these four people, not fucking real. They're not real people. Count Liang, that whole game, based on a lie. None of these fucking people are real. In the character files where I went in, the Dynasty files, they're all listed as placeholder Liangzhou Guiyi vassal, or placeholder Shuzhou Guiyi vassal, etc., which is pretty cool. Going in and looking at the history files for who owns what, even the duchies have commented out that their liege is the king of Guiyi, which didn't exist, or the king of Ganzhou, which again doesn't exist. So there was the intention early on for the Guiyi Circuit to control all of this, but then it just never happened, or was maybe undone for balance reasons. The code doesn't really say why it wasn't done, so I'd really love to know, Paradox game designers, why this was cut for what was released. It's probably balance reasons, like you can really run roughshod over everything in the neighborhood with this, and yeah, that's a little problematic, but it's historically accurate. This kingdom existed until 90... that's not right. 907, I think it became an actual kingdom. Later on, the Western Xia came and conquered them, and then the Western Xia themselves were conquered by the Mongols. So, the Guiyi Circuit lasted for like 150, 200 years, something like that. Not bad as far as countries go, but it was super cool as a historical entity, because it wasn't an army from the east that went west and reconquered all of this. The Tang Dynasty had been cut off here-ish by the Tibetan Empire. Then your uncle, who's a playable character in here, will hop in. Huaishen's uncle, Yishao, actually started a rebellion down here in Shazhou and won, and then kept taking over cities and getting other people to rebel to join in his rebellion, and he basically reconquered all of this on his own without any help from the Tang Dynasty or mainland China. And then he sent emissaries to the Tang court being like, hey, we're back, baby. The West has returned. And the Tang court were like exalted and super excited about this. Exalted? No, that's not the right word. Well, you know what I mean. They were super hype about it, and made him a high-positioned person in the court. Basically said everything you conquered you can hold on to. And Yi Xiao, actually, the reason we're not playing as him in 867, which is really interesting that this is our start date. This is the year that he returned to the Tang court back in China, and instead left the care of the Guiyi Circuit to his nephew, Huaishen. And that's about all we know about these people. There's maybe better documentation as to what kind of a man Yi Qiao was, or what kind of a man Huaishen was, but basically I think the only thing forced on him is brave and skilled tactician, maybe desert warrior too. Huaishan is just a blank page. Yeah, so super cool. Is it balanced? No. If you don't also use my Taoism mod, it is not balanced because you'll have access to Holy Wars and you can just go fucking crazy. If you're using my Taoism mod, you know, selfless plug here, then Holy Wars aren't going to be a thing and your expansion is going to be considerably slowed because of that, and that'll probably be a bit more balanced. I haven't run test games unobserved to see how well they hold up. I've run a couple, basically every time I've seen the king get deposed in favor of his uncle, so, you know, there's some power dynamics at play. Interestingly enough, this count over here, Count Yijin, I don't know if this was an actual person, but the Dynasty, Shao, they were actually eventually, like 100 years or so, the ones to take over the Guiyi court, and in the 900s, no, I guess only 50 years. 50 years for them to take over, and then these folks would actually declare this its own kingdom. But, you know, we gotta take some liberties with CK3. Anywho, yeah, it's done. I'm fairly sure this is historically accurate to a T, best as I can tell. And, I mean, I'll be honest, Tang Dynasty, not... I'm familiar with the Tang Dynasty. I've done some reading and some studying on the Tang Dynasty, not like a lot. My favorite... I mean, it's probably one of my favorite dynasties, but even then, what I read about was shit over here, not this. I know that the Guiyi Circuit used to extend to, like, Kashgar and have all this, and that it's on the back pedal right now, and yeah, unfortunately, I don't have access to a lot of good primary Chinese sources, and even if it did, my Mandarin's fucking horrible, so I'm positive there must be more information about this family. I'm positive, but I'm just a dumb Westerner who can't read Mandarin very well. So, yeah, I'm probably gonna keep working on a few more mods themed around this area. Surprise, surprise. I played through a campaign here, and stopped at a point when the Dynasty mechanics got weird, and I'm like, I'm just gonna wait for Paradox to fix this. And in the interim, I've just been adding shit I've wanted to add. Unfortunately, I can't retroactively add any of these into existing campaigns. I have to start over an entirely new campaign, and if I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna add in all the shit I want. So, I got a few more ideas for mods I'll be working on this week. Silk Road modifiers, kind of like CK2, but a lot less impactful. I already edited the Daoist face, so let's get rid of that. Guiyi has already been fixed. I want to do more digging and try and find out more about Huaishan and his uncle, and see if I can give them some more appropriate traits. I want to add some events regarding, like, the Tang Dynasty, the Song Dynasty, and the events in China, because that would be directly impactful on Han characters who are rulers who rule one of these kingdom titles or one of these empire titles. So there's probably gonna have to be some tiers to who these events impact, and they're just gonna be flavor, basically, to help roleplay and be like, okay, well, this is going on over here. And I was thinking maybe add Confucianism, but if we're being real, Zhengyi is already a stretch. The idea that these are Taoist holy sites is weird, dude, because, like, Taoism was founded and flourished over here. And there are some, like, revered sites in Taoism over here. They're all off the map, though, so I don't really understand the logic underpinning these. I didn't want to dig into that too much, so we're just gonna leave it. And that's the reason I think I'm not going to touch Confucianism. I think it's relevant as much as Taoism is. But the holy sites would just be, like, impossible. But yeah, I've gone on long enough. This has had an appropriate amount of rambling. Until tomorrow, I'm gonna say toodaloo, take care, see you then, bye-bye.